So the very first deck that I ever laddered with in an attempt to be competitive in Elder Scrolls Legends was a mid-range Spellsword deck. The very first season, at least in open beta, I hit Legend with a like token Spellsword deck because I was trying to do like a budget challenge. But after that, I was focusing on a more like tuned or honed version of like mid-range Spellsword at the time, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that it was pretty cheap to build. So when you're mostly free to play, it's a kind of a no-brainer thing to start with, and it fitted play style that I was relatively happy with at the time. But time moves on. Other decks shine, cards get buffed, cards get nerfed. Divine Fervor got hit, which was kind of a big deal, and I never really revisited it. So the other night on stream after hitting Legend, we were trying some kind of meme-ish decks. I tried Altar Monk again, I tried a few other things, and my ranking pretty much tanked. I think we were down to like 180s or 190s for the Legend rank, and I decided that I was going to do like a nostalgia night, if you will, and I literally just threw together like a mid-range spell sword list and said, let's give this a go. It took a little bit of tweaking, but it turns out it's actually pretty competitive right now, and I think that it's been overshadowed quite a bit by some of the other mid-range decks, Sorcerer especially, but there's a lot of value to be had there, and with the recent nerfs to some of the other aggressive decks and the tools that are available to Spellsword, especially in the current meta, I think that it's at least more resilient than people give it credit for, and it showed in the numbers. So in the night that we played it, I ended up going 15-3. Now I don't think that win rate's going to hold up like long term, but again, I think that was pretty indicative of what the deck can do. Again, especially at the Legend rank, and it took us, as I said, from like the 180s, 190s range all the way up to rank 69. We stopped there for obvious reasons for the night, but yeah, it performed pretty well. So much so that I thought it was worth mentioning and doing a quick deck spotlight on because it certainly outperformed what I expected. So the deck, if you're not familiar, kind of focuses on playing like beefy threats or things that are, if they're not at least beefy, can also be aggressive, but potentially be like dual purpose or trade really well. So it doesn't have the full like raw trading efficiency that mid-range Sorcerer does. Like the wards are just really strong for Sorcerer. So the thing that this does do, however, is in the non-Sorcerer matchup, it generally is a bully in terms of the size of the creatures. And even against Sorcerer, or sometimes even against other aggro lists, it does a good job of maintaining the health lead because of things like Broom of Profiteer and Ravenous Hunger. And when you have the health lead, then you can pretty much ensure that you're going to get Golden Saint, which is a terrific card right now. With the nerf to the other like health lead cards, I think Golden Saint is now on par with or better than a lot of them. And then obviously Black Room Necromancer is in play in Spellsword as well. So the deck does a great job of like establishing an early presence and then trying to just like snowball that board presence into an insurmountable lead. I really felt like Ravenous Hunger, I didn't have it in the list originally. I really felt like he shined in the list. I added him because I needed some more 2-drops, I felt like. I think I was originally running Crushing Blows in that slot. So we dropped the Crushing Blows, stuck in Ravenous Hunger. Worst case scenario, he's a 4-1, so he still swings hard for a 2-drop. Very similar to the Orc with Prophecy, he just doesn't have Prophecy. The Drain, however, means that he is incredibly relevant against other mid-range and aggro decks because they basically have to deal with him, and even though he is brittle, he still requires a response, and that's sometimes just good enough. And then even further, when it comes to trading, he's a 2-drop that can trade up to 4 health minions. And if you trade with the 4 health minion and you get the health out of it, he ends up being like worth every penny, if you will, every point of Magicka. So he ended up being much better than I thought. I was very glad that we made that switch. So as you're looking at the list, there are some cards that I think that could be worked in. Again, this was like one night of experimentation, so I feel like there is at least room for experimentation with Dawnstar Healer and the Haffinger Marauder, or Hoffinger, I don't know how you pronounce it, but the Marauder, right? Marauder obviously can help you snowball some games if you get a couple of key item triggers, and Dawnstar Healer is just more, health lead shenanigans while also being aggressive. Now, the main reason I left them out of the initial list was just because I felt like the other cards in those slots were slightly better. I didn't feel like running Dawnstar Healer over a Mammoth, for example. I still prefer East March Crusader because I'd rather break one rune and then have his trigger for the rest of the game. So if you do have to so one of the things mid-range decks have to do is they have to either be the aggressor or the beatdown, or against hyper aggro decks, then you become the control player. And so Dawnstar Healer, which is great for healing and stabilizing, does require multiple runes to get more value out of him. Where something like East March Crusader, once you crack the first rune, you're always going to draw the card. He still has that 4 attack power as opposed to Dawnstar's 3, so you can potentially trade up. Yeah, so I could see somebody playing healer. He just didn't initially make the first cut. Similarly with Marauder, 5-drops. I was trying to keep the curve relatively low / linear, so I didn't want to be heavy at 5-drops, and priests are pretty important. I knew I wanted to run at least 2 Divine Fervors. So as we were looking at the list, or at least as I was looking at the list, I was struggling to fit him in. So I could still see people experimenting with them. One card I will say that is likely not going to stay in the list, though it's in right now and it's going to be on screen long term. I'm sure I'm probably going to cut it unless I see a drastic change, is Mundus Stone. I originally threw it in just because it's the meme stone, I guess, for one, and people seem to talk about the infinite value and how they hate losing to it, and it feels like it's oppressive. So I was like, all right, I mean, clearly if all these people are complaining about it, it's got to be strong enough to be an include in this deck, right? But almost every time I drew it, I didn't play it. Sacrificing the additional board presence, when you're hitting turn 4 and you could be playing a 4-drop, unless your opponent was already missing draws, in which case they're already that far behind anyway, almost every time it was the right play to instead put another creature on the board. Just play a threat, ramp up your board presence. And that continues realistically through turn 7. So it was really turn 7 or 8 where I was even starting to consider Mundus Stone, in which case it would be Mundus Stone and a creature just so I get some immediate value. But by the time the game goes to that point, I'm still kind of wanting to either play threats or responses to things so that I could try to push for lethal. By the time I'm hitting, turn 7 or 8, my opponent should be at 15 or less, roughly, and I should really be thinking about playing things like Shadowfen Priest to silence a guard or something like that to push through. So ultimately, while I can see the value that Mundus Stone would get, it was not worth sacrificing the board presence, and I don't imagine too many scenarios coming up where it would be worth it. So again, I included it in this list, but literally every time I drew it, it was not feeling like it was the right play to play it unless I just had nothing else to do. So that is one card that, again, currently in the list, but I would feel safe cutting if you don't have it or you want to try one of those other cards that I've mentioned. So as always, when I do these spotlights, what's following me talking about the list is going to be some games. So I hope you enjoy it. And as always, I will hopefully see you next time. Not even Legend? Well, then you can't be in the dumpster if you're not in Legend. Because right now you can just be hipster cool. Oh, do I really want to keep the Edict here? This is not a good hand against Mage. This Prophet title tells me he's probably playing Prophecy Control Mage. I don't think we keep the Edict here. I don't like this matchup though. I got a feeling that it's not going to go well for us. Oh, and now we have the even more difficult decision. Play the Firebolt target or the 2/3 for like little value. I think the 2-3. 2-3 is more resilient, and the health lead is really important for the Saint later. This Golden Saints, if we survive, like, and try to push this to victory, are what would do it for us. They survive Ice Storm and establish a pretty big board presence for us. Oh, okay. Might be like the item mage variant thing then.
Too late for you.
This might be like Gardener item mage. You had to look it up. That's gonna hit. He's gonna ring. Oh wow, he didn't hit.
Do not touch me.
I am shocked.
Too late for you. Your time has come.
Alright. Next turn we've got a lot of good choices, and then the turn after that is Saint. Ideally we'd like to Divine Fervor, but we are probably just gonna Fervor. I don't think either of those are jabbable. I don't think that the Priest is the appropriate play. The only other choice would maybe be Defender, but unless he's running like Vicious Drow, that's probably a pretty safe investment. And it makes the Golden Saints that much better. Like, these two will eat one Golden Saint, but that's a lot of value out of that next turn. Keep waiting for the combo to hit. Like, right now, he could, with the ring, theoretically, he could, like, Gardener and Mace, but then he's, what, double shackling me? Kind of have him. I don't know. I wouldn't say in a pickle. Like, if I had the mace, like, I think I would just use it on a single target. He can't really afford to keep taking damage like this.
May the ancestors bless us.
Maybe this is control and this is just like a random 2-drop he runs for like Daggerfall mage value or something. Yeah. He has trades on both sides, but without further removal. You got nips, boss? I do. What's up, Ultimexes? What, can you see him? I've got somebody who hangs out. She's another streamer named Weenie who likes to always make fun of me because they stick out sometimes. And Shaman likes to throw around the weight loss command and make fun of me. Kappa. Alright, plus the bolt. Fair enough, sir. Fair enough. Let's do that. Could have also played the Spirit there, but this gives us more tools and is more aggressive. Yeah, that's the one. Dapper Defender. Looking like a Sench Tiger. Ice Storm's legit. I was big, yeah. I was 248 pounds. I was a big dude. Yeah, I think we double up with both. We want a threat. No, there's no offense. Like, that's what happens when you change your lifestyle and you take a sedentary desk job and you go out to eat an awful lot with coworkers and you don't do anything. Like, dude, I ballooned up. I got big. And then I ran into a lot of health problems as a result. So once I ran into health problems, I had to do something about it, you know? 10:30, the only place that matters in the world. For me, it's like 1:30 a.m. Warrior, huh? I'm actually tempted to keep the Golden Saint against him, but we don't have the ring, so I can't. Yeah, that's a much better hand, let's be honest. Alright, so we're going first against Warrior. I have to assume it's Orcs, but this isn't horrible. You just have to fight him for the board, I think. This will be an interesting... Unless he's Control Warrior. Control Warrior is a thing, right? I shouldn't dismiss it.
There's always a plan.
Yeah, I'm doing well enough to play now. Now my only problem is like lack of sleep, which I know is cursing me to an early grave. But I work 2 jobs and I got a wife and kids, so the only way that I get to stream, right, is if I sacrifice sleep. So I'd rather hang out with you guys than be well rested. You know what I mean?
Try this on for size.
Oh, there's an orc right on cue.
You won't foil my plan.
Alright, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to see if I can bait him into trading there. Now, if he's got like a Stone Shard orc, then obviously this place sucks for me. But if he doesn't have the Stone Shard, then he has to then make the decision on whether or not he wants to give me that. Well, that says... Well, okay. I guess the Battle Rager is another option that he can have. Fair enough, sir. But we do have the health lead, so... That's the important part. I guess I should fill this out. Alright, we went first against Warrior and likely mid-range. Okay. Gotta make sure I'm stat tracking. It's important.
I'm ready for anything.
Wow, another one.
You won't escape alive. Gore and glory. Let me at him.
Yeah, keep playing with the decks you provide. I think Act 3 is the last act. It's obviously been a long time since I've done it, but... Usually we're going to put this over here to start trying to make trades and contests, because we still get value out of that unless he silences it. But if he silences it, then he used his priest on that, which is good. I'd also kind of like this to die so we have shots at it with these. The better value creatures we can get from those, the better it is for us. The first Necromancer is likely going over here as well for even more trades to try to tamper this down. But then also when the first one dies, second one will have a shot. Not likely, but at least have a shot at pulling it, because again, not many things are as satisfying as like Necro into Golden Saint or something ridiculous, you know what I mean? Yeah, you can make your own for the story, but in my experience, it wasn't like necessary. Like everything was doable without it. Alright. That might make it. We... Of course, because I did that now, don't have the health lead, right? So I can only get him to 19. So we're going to take a different path, I guess.
Confound you!
You can go there.
There's a plan. There's always a plan.
And we'll start contesting that lane. He's got a lot of cards in hand, though. That Chieftain was a very solid value play for him. And this is you. The correct answer is this is not okay.
Enough.
We're about to take a lot of damage.
End of the road. Gore and glory. Let me at him.
I would really like to be able to play a Hive Defender here, but then that means not edicting here. And then if he has a removal, we're just done. Or if not, a Hive Defender over there, Nahagleave. I think we're gonna have to. And just pray.
Hiding will not save you.
I mean, we did that order because I didn't want to break the rune.
You won't foil my plan.
I think he's got me. The Belligerent Giant and the Chieftain were both solid. Honestly, that Chieftain play was the turn that did it, because I wasn't calculating his guys doing +1 damage, and that put us off the health lead by just enough. And then we couldn't Necromancer that turn, and ever since then we've been playing from behind. So that was quality, that Chieftain. Worst part is that
I'm ready for anything. Let me at him.
even if these all survived, which they're not going to with that play, but even if they did, we were still one short of lethal.
Who goes there? I live to serve.
Alright, so we have hope, right? We can Hive Defender. And then I honestly think that we do this.
Confound you.
And this. I think that's the right way to do it. Because I don't want to break a rune until I can recoup some health, I think. Oh, what a good play.
This should be good.
What a good play. Well, let's see what this gets
No
us.
matter what.
All right, men, on me.
I probably should have edict that. The real problem here is the Wood Orc Headhunter is victory. So I probably should have edict that. That's shitty. I wasn't thinking about the fact he gets charge and breakthrough, right? So we would take 3, this would die, and then if we don't hit a prophecy, this would be the other 4.
For the glory of the Orsimer. You get one shot. Make it good.
Oh, that's fortuitous. You really wanted that Tullius going, huh? Let's at least see what this gets us first. I really feel like now is the time to attack. I don't want to give him a Headhunter because, again, that's victory, but at some point, like, I gotta start pushing lethal. And that's the only thing that beats us, I think, right? I mean, I guess, like, a Dramura Markans would be ridiculous. But I don't, it's not like I have guards, and these are useless until I can get the health lead, so I need to put myself in the opportunity to win. That's probably a mistake. He's probably gonna play Headhunter and win, but I can at least hold out hope for a Javelin.
I've embraced my rage.
Well, he didn't get a Headhunter back. Maybe he was digging for it. All 3 Javelins are live. He would need 2 Crushing Blows. He doesn't have enough magic and now.
There is strength in
I think we might have did it. Wow. This was another nail biter. Not quite coming back from 2 against Crusader, but this was a nail biter.
Still at stone. It has been an engaging.
All right. That is a good quality, like, mid-range back and forth game, right? Like, that's... There was some trading, fighting for board presence. You play the card, you play Merrick. That's 10. Unless I'm missing something incredibly obvious here. Yeah, Merrick was what I was saying, right? So, like, if you're, you know, I'm playing...
This state will be mine.
No, not Merrick, right? So, like, imagine, like, I'm playing Scout, and I've got, you know, like, 2 guards out or whatever, and my opponent's at, I don't know, like, 14, but I play that new card,
The longer the odds,
I re-roll the Fighters Guild Recruit in my hand to get... Merrick, I then play him, my 2 guards high roll. One gets like Dwarven Armaments, the other one gets like Heirloom Greatsword. And then I roll for the victory. I'm not going to feel that I won that in a skillful manner, and my opponent is going to be pissed as shit. And so I think my biggest concern about that card is we get closer to new release, right? So here's my ultimate, like if I had to really spell it out. As we get closer to like official release and hopefully, right, a big influx of new players as a result, my fear is that there's already going to be a bunch of players who are going to be learning Prophecy for the first time. There's already going to be a bunch of players who are going to be running into cards like Merrick for the first time. There's going to be players running into Blood Magic Lord and maybe even like Brutal Ashlander stuff. Altar of like Mundus Stone, right? They're gonna see all these other RNG elements, and now we've created a new card that can potentially create even more negative experiences for a new player. And so I think ultimately, like, that's my concern, right? So it sets a bad design precedent, and it could potentially scare off new converts. And as somebody who loves the game, wants to see it succeed, I think the timing is off. Like, if this, let's say you do the official release, you do your marketing, and this happens 3 months, 6 months afterwards, I'm still not a fan of the card at that point, but it's less likely to do that kind of harm that it's doing right now, which I think is a bigger deal. So, alright, interesting. I gotta stop ranting for just a minute because I got to decide what the right course of action is here. I mean, this is going to attack either way. So we could... I feel like Shadow Fenning this is the right place so he doesn't gain health, but we're going to lose this either way.
confound you.
For the Emperor!
And then once this dies, at least we have a shot at getting it back with Necromancer, though we'll probably just Nahagleave next turn. But at this point, because we're racing as hard as we are, I feel like denying the health there is important. Alright, back to the rant. I think that, like I said, it's a bad design precedent, and I think that it's potentially just really timed wrong. Those are my biggest concerns.
Confound you.
Yeah, as much as I want to do something flashy here, I think it's Nahagleave. Because yet again, the more big, awesome targets we have in the grave, I don't think he's going to take the health lead back. If he manages to kill Nahagleave, then it's one more shot at getting something saucy. But 6, 7, 8. We're so close.
Chimera, guide us!
Found you.
I think we still do it. We're not there, but we can do that and put that over here. And if he doesn't remove that, we can just jab and drive it home. But so yeah, I mean, I think that the card will create some memorable moments. And I also want to be clear in that I'm not anti-RNG. Randomness or variance is required in card games, like, period. If you don't have it, you're just playing chess, right? Like, you need some level of variance because that's how people are allowed to make skillful plays. The game is different every time as a result. So I don't want to sound like if it has any level of randomness that I'm immediately pissed. That's not the case. It's just it's got to be like variance that still is in a range that allows a skillful player to say, all right, here's my chances of this occurring, or based on what I know about the game, he's likely to have this card, or you know what I mean? Like, you know, at least with Mundus Stone, as much like shit as that card gets, somebody can say, all right, you know, he's got a 1 in 7 chance of that thing getting charged. Nuke.
My fight
Yeah, that sealed it.
It's been an engaging hunt.
Dude, we are kind of on a roll tonight. Like, I was really just playing this to be, like, throwback cheeky. But, hey, dude, I think we should quit.